The 30th edition of the African Mining Indaba got underway in Cape Town yesterday. The annual event provides a platform for deal-making as well as discussions on critical mining issues. Now, the theme for this year's event is Embracing the Power of Positive Disruption, a bold new future for African mining. Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, says that the department is working hard to deal with the backlog of mining license applications. But let's unpack this 30th edition of the Mining Indaba and what's come out of it so far with SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. Mr. Vavi, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to everybody listening.
Now, Mr. Vavi, as usual, the Mining Indaba brings major role players and stakeholders in the mining industry together in order to essentially chart a way forward for the sector. But how would you describe the status of the sector currently?
Well, currently depressed, losing jobs, on decline, and the minerals depleting at a faster rate without us exploiting to the maximum the benefits that should accrue to the entire economy because of our, let me say, God-given position of being one of the most endowed countries in the world when it comes to mineral resources in the country. So there was a commodity boom as a result of the war between Russia and Ukraine, and when the rest of the world was seeking alternative to the resources that are being produced by Russia. But that boom have now passed. We're back to a reality that the boom that worked so well for our fiscal position that allowed our government to have more fiscal pace in the context of a much more depressed economy arising out of the COVID disaster. But that advantage is now going, and unless there will be another boom in terms of commodity pricing, we are in some difficulty at this moment. You see that every mining company is announcing that they are losing jobs. They're going to have to embark on major job losses, program retrenchments. That's not good for the economy that have relied on the mining industry over many years. The input of the mining to the entire GDP has been declining. And it was good to listen to the minister yesterday announcing that there is more and more recoveries of more minerals in the Northern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo, of course, have been where we've been getting our chrome and coal recently in large deposits. The 4 provinces should hopefully propel a better economic growth. But if we do what we have been arguing unsuccessfully that our government should do for many years, and let's speak about that. The main problem of South Africa is that we are remaining a neo-colonial output, or where we rely mainly on the minerals that are extracted raw, then sent out, and then we do very little to beneficiate. We do very little to build secondary industries. We do very little to build sustainable alternative industries. And as a result, when we deplete the minerals in Carltonville, Welcome, Stilfontein, Orkney, Klerksdorp, those towns become ghost towns without any other alternative economic activity to mining. And that's our main problem in South Africa, the failure of this government to drive beneficiation of our mineral resources so that we can rebuild our industrial base. Accompanying that has been a massive deindustrialization of the South Africa's economy. You know that the manufacturing sector used to contribute up to 24% to the GDP, and it is now down to half of that. And this presents a crisis because we're losing decent jobs, and we are relying more and more on what we call precarious kinds of jobs that the economy is creating. But the precarious informal jobs do not defeat poverty, do not help us close inequalities, and do not make us to develop fast as we would if we had a big chunk of our workforce working for decent wages that can help to roll the wheels of the economy again to create more jobs elsewhere in the economy.
So quite a bit said there, Mr. Vavi, but just to pick up on one point, talking about not just the beneficiation, but also the poverty, the inequality in our country. So in 2004, which was the year when the Mining Charter was first introduced, black ownership by indigenous people of South Africa stood at 2%. And today, this stands at 39%. But, you know, is this something that should be celebrated?
Of course, it should be. And on condition that this will represent not a takeover from a white elite by black elites that exclude the overwhelming majority of the poor, the working class, and who must now celebrate that few black faces are continuing with their exploitation, taking off from where white citizens under colonialism were exploiting them. So that have to be a very important qualifier condition. So having said that, I was just looking this morning as to who remains the biggest mining companies in South Africa and in the African continent. No doubt that the historical monopolies remain in charge of our mining sector from here to Cairo. And the closest to black-owned company comes to position number 9, which is the Mineral and Rainbow of Patrice Motsepe. Everybody remains the same, and Goldfields, Anglo-American, Ashanti, you can name them all. And that picture have to change at some point. And unfortunately, we're not positioning ourselves to address the issue of ownership of the mineral by the workers, by the communities from where these deposits are being discovered. And we still have a situation where it will still be the top elites in the economy that exploits those minerals, that then export them elsewhere, China, India, and then we must now buy them back as finished products. This is what have been the situation for almost 400 years. And unfortunately, in 30 years of the ANC rule, we have not changed that picture. And that's what we are in the main having a gripe with.
So how are we likely to change that? Because if we look not just at South Africa, but across the continent, we look at the mineral resources and the fact that these need to be exploited in an equitable and optimal manner that would actually underpin a rather broad-based, sustainable, inclusive growth that would also look to socioeconomic development in all of these African countries where these minerals are mined. How are we going to do that? Because, as you say, even though we've seen a change of political power to a democratic rule, that does not seem to have impacted greatly to the way in which one would like to see. Very briefly, Mr. Vavi.
Look, when I was listening to the minister yesterday, there was something that says to me, we are excited that there's more recoveries. But there was something that I was saying at the same time, but who's going to be exploiting and who's going to be winning the licenses? We have capacity to mine. Have we changed that picture? We haven't. And secondly, will these mining deposits result in a government now using truly its carrot and stick approach that will say, we will only give you the license to mine if you show us a plan of how you're going to beneficiate these minerals in South Africa and build secondary industries here in our country. And if you are going to do that, we will give you these tax incentives for you to beneficiate here in South Africa. And if you want to continue with the trend of exporting we're going to be taxing you so that it makes it very difficult for you to take these minerals to China, India, and elsewhere. I think that should be
Well,
the strategy. Our call remains the same. Please don't just be excited of minerals that will be exploited by others, but be excited if those minerals will help you reverse deindustrialization in South Africa and therefore creation of jobs in South Africa.